Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our prep talk for college and university teacher education faculty. My name is Jordan Lukens. I work with the IRIS Center, and I'm also an assistant teaching professor at North Carolina State University. Today, IRIS Center is partnering with the Center for Appropriate Dispute Resolution in Special Education, or CADRE, to host our conversation around how we prepare our teacher candidates for some of the legal realities of special education. So Dr. Melanie Reese from CADRE has joined us today and is going to be sharing some really amazing resources that we can use to integrate into our courses to help students better understand the processes involved in dispute resolution and equip them with some strategies for working with families to prevent disputes from happening in the first place. A couple of logistical notes before we get started. As far as timing goes, we're here formally for about 30 minutes, but we'll keep the Zoom open for more discussion for up to another 30 minutes after that. So feel free to stick around, get a chance to really talk some things out and get some new and great ideas. Melanie's going to share her resources for just about 10 minutes. So pretty quick presentation overview of what CADRE has to offer. And then we'll open up the floor for your questions and some discussion. And also keep an eye on the chat. We'll share some links and documents there so that you can easily access all of today's materials. We're also recording this session to share with those who were unable to attend live. We'll post the presentation on our YouTube channel. Not the group discussion afterwards, so you can feel free to share openly in that time. Our first two prep talks, which our first one was on IEP development and our second was on accessible educational materials, are already posted on our YouTube channel. So those are available for you if you missed either of those and want to take a look back at some resources for those topic areas as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Melanie Reese.
Hi, everybody. Just a real, and thank you so much, Jordan and Iris, for having me at this. We're very excited to be reaching this particular audience of university folks. So as a just quick intro, a little bit about me. I'm one of you. I am I'm an old university professor of Professor Emerita from Boise State University in 2009. And just about my real brief how I got to where I am. I did the university thing for about 20 years. I then was an ombudsman, always been a mediator since the mid-90s, written a couple of textbooks, that kind of stuff. But then I joined the Department of Education as their dispute resolution coordinator after I left the university, and then was there for about 7 years, joined CADRE in 2017, and have been the director here at CADRE ever since that point. So I'm feeling quite the kinship with folks in the group today. So we can talk university stuff and it's fun. So the plan for today, very quick overview. CADRE has so much to offer in terms of materials that it was tough to even identify just a few to share with you, but thought we'd focus a little bit on just a quick overview of what is CADRE and the continuum and how of conflict and how the materials fit within that perspective. We'll focus on the very important aspect of the work, which is building relationships between family and schools, and then offer some suggestions for some materials that we have in terms of if students are wanting, or if you're wanting to have students work more on skill building. So that's where we're going. So CADRE has been the National Center on Dispute Resolution in Special Education since the center was first funded in 1998. We've been around for over 20 years. And we serve under the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Special Education Programs. Our primary stakeholders are IDEA, individuals with dispute, or excuse me, IDEA, the individual, oh my gosh, I can't remember, individual, help me, IDEA.
Individual with Disabilities Education Act.
Thanks. I've got CADRE lingo in the mind.
All good.
I'm glad that this is being recorded. So Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Thank you. So Part B of the IDEA focuses on the school age and young adults in the program. And so our primary stakeholders are state departments of education. Our Part C agencies would be those that serve birth to 3. And we also serve federally funded parent centers. So while these are our primary stakeholders in terms of the kind of materials that we develop and the technical assistance we offer, we also cater to and provide information that goes to many other stakeholders as well. So parents, families, educators across the board. So we have a lot of materials that are consumed widely. Under the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which should roll right off my tongue, the requirements for agencies at the state level are for there to be programs for mediation, written state complaints, and due process complaints availability for folks who have disputes with special education. And the charge for CADRE is to support those processes and to have states have compliant systems. That said, we go beyond that. We also recognize that there is a need for better processes. There's need for alternative dispute resolution, early intervention, early dispute, building relationships and preventing disputes from happening in the first place if possible. So know that we focus on the full continuum. When we talk about the continuum of dispute resolution options, CADRE has an actual continuum on our website, and these piano keys, if you will, I'll point to them very quickly. These piano keys, I can't point to them very quickly. Right here, if you clicked on these on our website, they would open up examples of each of these different processes from different states. So if you were looking at, well, what are they talking about with stakeholder councils? It would pop open several states that have some examples, stakeholder councils that they use, or family engagement programs, or third-party consultation programs, for example. And as you move from left to right on the continuum, the processes get more formalized and perhaps more adversarial, more legalistic. So as we are on the left side of the continuum, you have the relationship building, the mediation, facilitation, communication. The locus of control for decision making is in the hands of the parties. But as you move towards the right of the continuum, there's more legalistic approach. And so students in teacher prep programs often aren't familiar with the full continuum of dispute resolution options. And so this may be a way to introduce the topic to them in terms of just a visual of where early intervention of disputes to more legalistic intervention of disputes happen. If you are looking to share information about what the IDEA requirements are for dispute resolution, I highly recommend these booklets on IDEA dispute resolution that we have in 13 different languages. But we have these booklets, and they're in parent-friendly language. They've taken the IDEA, they have taken the legalistic language and made it very friendly to help families understand their procedural rights and safeguards under IDEA. But if you look at these booklets, they're 5 to 8 pages long. They're half sheet. They're small, but they are full of information that provides a good primer for dispute resolution. So for example, inside each booklet, they'll talk about what is the process. So in this case, I'm looking at the mediation book. So what is mediation? The benefits of mediation, provide some information, frequently asked questions about it, as well as ways that you can prepare for mediation. So really fast, easy primers on the different dispute resolution processes. And we have the 5 there. So, and we include facilitation, even though it's not required under IDEA. It's again, our effort to promote early dispute resolution when possible. For those students who don't like to read, or if you have folks who are wanting it in a visual format, we have also translated and provide these companion videos for each of the booklets. So 10, 15-minute presentations on the booklets in visual form, in video form. Additionally, we have some resources that focus on relationship building, and highlighting one in particular that I found very, very helpful in helping educators understand the importance of developing relationships with families is this Engaging Parents in Productive Partnerships. This short brochure, probably 4 or 5 pages, and I believe you have the link to this as well, identifies strategies that educators can do to make parents feel more comfortable, to be included in the team, to remind educators to maybe not focus so much on the lingo or the jargon of special education, but to really make meaningful participation for families a reality. One thing that is very helpful in this particular publication that I used when I was a dispute resolution coordinator for the Department of Education is this last page on good IEP meetings. And it goes through actual tips that everybody can do to make IEP meetings more friendly and focused. Before the meeting, think about how people are, where they're sitting, greet people at the door. During the meeting, be sure and keep, focus on the child. And so this particular resource is just a really strong resource for relationship building. Another resource that we have is one that was originally created by the Office of Dispute Resolution in Pennsylvania called A Tale of Two Conversations. These are 2 videos. One is, they're about 7 to 9 minutes long, each of them. The first video is a demonstration of a conversation between a parent and an administrator that just goes south. There's increased frustration, misunderstanding, and what's fun about using this in a classroom setting is that you get a chance to, after the video, point out all the places where they could have made a difference, where you could have had a different outcome if somebody had just been validated or encouraged or phrased something a little bit differently. And then take 2, the scene is reshot with the improved interaction. This is a very short activity that you can do in classrooms, and I have used it previously and others under its previous iteration, and found it to be very engaging for students. Finally, I wanted to share with you the Working Together series. This is a 5-course online set of modules of lessons in so it could be self-paced or they can be done as a group in how to, IEP meetings, in listening, managing emotions, focusing on interests over positions, ways to reach agreement, move past impasse. This online series is available in Spanish, but for those of us who have an interest in teaching out of this, I wanted to highlight that there is a facilitator's guide. And this facilitator's guide is 87 pages of activities, supplemental materials, resources, case studies, places where students, if you would like for them to do some extra investigation, can go. And so I can tell you that as an old professor, I would have found this very helpful as a teacher's manual of identifying different activities. Furthermore, there's also reviews of what the particular course is. So if you have like a 15-20 minute course on IEP meetings and beyond, it gives a summary outline of that, so you can do a real quick preview or update or summary of the information, and then go into an activity. So it's like your lecture's already prepared for you. So this is a really helpful guide. And even if you don't use the Working Together series itself, you may find the facilitator's guide helpful to you in just other class preparation. So that was a very quick rush of what some of the items that CADRE has to offer. You can find us at cadreworks.org. And so we have you see our quick guides for parents videos is right there on the front page. You can find our materials. If you can't find something, we have a handy search bar. You can type in those titles and you should be able to find it. But if you can't find something, don't hesitate to contact me. wanted to remind everybody that we have a symposium coming up in October where we will be bringing together educators, special education teachers, practitioners in dispute resolution, parent centers. It's the only conference of its kind that brings this large group of folks who are interested in dispute resolution and special education from a variety of different vantage points together. And that will be in October. Registration is open soon. And then also to remind you, we have a newsletter if you would like information about our materials. We send it out monthly. Try not to overdo your mailbox. So with that, opening it up for questions or whatever Jordan wants to do next.
No, you're good. Thank you, Melanie. I know 10 minutes, we say 10 minutes and it goes really fast. I'm myself going, oh, I'm going to plug all these things into my syllabi and my planning. We have added a handout in the chat that does have all of those links. So the hot links are there, but there's also a handout, really easy to just download that so that you'll have all those links. You don't have to keep track of a whole bunch of tabs open. So make sure that you've pulled that down, saved that handout so you can get back to these resources later. We also added a few IRIS resources on that handout as well that dovetail nicely with what CADRE has to offer. So you'll see a couple of modules on there, one for family engagement and one on IEPs that's specifically designed for administrators, but just really includes more depth of information on those substantive and procedural requirements. And then there's a fun activity around special ed acronyms. Melanie mentioned that jargon piece. So that's a nice jumping off point for that as well. But we hope that all of these things are useful tools to add to your toolkit as you're thinking about how you're teaching these elements in your courses. Before we open up for discussion with everyone, we do want to get everyone a chance to kind of process some things and come up with some ideas for how you might use these resources. So don't get scared on me. We are going to pop into breakout rooms for just a couple of minutes, about 3 minutes or so in breakout rooms with just a couple other faculty members so that you can just have a short conversation about how do you feel about teaching these concepts and how could these resources help you in your courses, and just have a quick chat with a few other folks, and then we'll come back together and that'll give us something to start off our larger group conversation with.